It was midnight in the quiet town of Blackwood Hills, a place tucked away in the misty valleys of northern Europe. On the very edge of town, a centuries-old church stood silent and abandoned. Its doors had been sealed for decades after a string of mysterious deaths, and the locals whispered that even the bravest dogs wouldn't dare go near it. But one night, that changed. A lone stray dog stopped right outside the church and began to bark, a furious, desperate sound that cut through the silence. Then, without a sound, a shadowy figure drifted out from behind the heavy church doors. The dog froze, its bark caught in its throat. The shadow swirled in the air like a dark mist, and with a sudden, violent gust of wind, the dog was yanked off its feet and pulled inside. Just moments later, its lifeless, white body was thrown back onto the cold ground. The silence of Blackwood Hills returned. But it was heavier now, more menacing. A week later, a group of college students arrived from the city for what was supposed to be a scenic trip. That night, while their teacher was sound asleep, 3 friends, Ryan, Ethan, and Argan decided they needed a little more excitement. "Man, this trip is so boring," Ethan complained. "They're treating us like a bunch of kids," Arkun agreed. "Yeah, no adventure, no real fun." Ethan's eyes lit up with a mischievous spark. "Then let's go find something a little creepy." They sneaked out of the hotel and wandered through the empty, fog-draped streets. It wasn't long before they found themselves standing before the old Blackwood church. Its silhouette was stark against the moonlit sky. "Whoa, it actually looks kinda beautiful, even in ruins," Arjun said, impressed. Ethan added, "Yeah, but people say no one's been inside for years. And that's exactly why we should check it out," Arjun shot back. Ryan, however, felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. "I don't like this guy. Something feels really wrong." But Ethan just laughed it off, pulling out his phone and switching on the flashlight. "Relax. It's just an old building. Come on, let's make a memory we'll never forget." With a push, the old wooden door creaked open, and they stepped into the darkness. Inside, the air was thick and musty. Thick cobwebs hung from the high ceilings like ghostly chandeliers. As their flashlight beams sliced through the darkness, a flurry of bats screeched and flew past their heads, startling them. "Okay, this place is officially giving me the creeps," Ryan muttered, his voice trembling slightly. "Come on, just look at the architecture," Ethan replied, trying to sound brave. But then, something impossible happened. The dusty old lights in the church began to flicker on and off, casting dancing, distorted shadows across the walls. "Wait, how is there even power here?" Arjun whispered, his bravado fading. That was their cue to leave. They turned and ran for the door, but just as they reached it, it slammed shut with a deafening boom. Panic set in. They pulled, they pushed, they kicked, but the door wouldn't budge. "This isn't funny. Somebody help us," Ethan yelled, his voice echoing in the vast, empty space. Ryan spun around, desperately searching for another excitant. Then he froze. Standing in the center of the main aisle was a woman. She was dressed in a torn, tattered nun's habit, but it was her eyes that made his blood run cold. They were glowing with a fiery, malevolent red light. What is that?" Arjun gasped, his words barely a whisper. Before they could even think to move, she dissolved into a cloud of black smoke and vanished right before their eyes. "Where did she go?" Ryan whispered, his heart pounding in his chest. Just then, they heard a wet, dragging sound coming from the floor behind them. They spun around and saw Arjun. He was crawling on the floor, but it wasn't him anymore. His eyes were glowing the same hellish red, and his skin was pale and blistered, like burned flesh. "Arjun, what's happening to you?" Ethan screamed in terror. Arjun's mouth twisted into a grotesque smile that wasn't his own. A chilling, layered voice, both his and something else, hissed, "You came into my house." He lunged at them, crawling across the floor like a spider, his tongue flicking out, unnaturally long. For a split second, the nun's face flickered over his, a ghostly image possessing him completely. Ryan fell to his knees, paralyzed with fear. "We didn't mean to disturb you," he pleaded. "Please, Just let us go." The nun, speaking through Argun, just smiled. Her voice echoed through the church. Cold and final. No one leaves the Lord's abandoned house alive. She reached out for Ryan, but as her hand grabbed his arm, she shrieked in agony. The silver bracelet on Ryan's wrist was burning her hand. It was a kara, a sacred bracelet, blessed in a Sikh temple. Smoke poured from Arjun's body as the nun's spirit screamed, twisting and shrieking before it was violently thrown out of him. Arjun collapsed, unconscious. Ethan rushed to his side. "Arjun, come on, wake up. Please." But it wasn't over. The nun appeared again, this time in her true form, towering over Ethan. Her face was cracked, like old porcelain, and black tears bled from her glowing eyes. She grinned, a terrifying sight, and her claws wrapped around Ethan's throat, lifting him into the air. Ethan gasped for breath, his voice breaking. "Ryan, run!" The bracelet chose it. Ryan was sobbing, shaking his head. "No, I won't leave you." But it was too late. Ethan's eyes rolled back into his head as the nun's claws dug deeper into his neck. A surge of desperate courage filled Ryan. He screamed, raising his bracelet and a small kirpan he carried, shouting the Sikh battle cry. "Wahaguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Wahaguru Ji Ki Fateh." A brilliant, sacred light burst from the bracelet, piercing through the nun's chest like a holy spear. She let out a final, soul-shattering screech as black smoke erupted from her body, burning away into nothingness. The entire church began to shake violently. The large cross above the altar glowed with a blinding white light. Ryan fell to his knees, completely spent, weeping. Looking up at the cross, he whispered, "Jesus, I don't know your prayers, but please help us." At that moment, a beam of soft, golden light flooded the church. The old bells, silent for decades, began to rend their sound pure and clear. Two nuns appeared with a priest, Father Gabriel, who began blessing the scene with holy water. "My child, you have freed her," Father Gabriel said softly. "For years, that tormented spirit has haunted this place, but now she is at peace." He sprinkled holy water on the unconscious boys. "By morning, they will remember nothing of this night. Go now and tell no one of what you saw." Ryan nodded, numb with shock. As he helped his friends out of the church, he turned for one last look, but the building was gone. Only a thick blanket of fog remained. And there, at the edge of the road, Father Gabriel stood smiling gently before he too vanished into the mist. To this day, the people of Blackwood Hills still tell the story of the night the evil nun was finally set free. Thanks for watching this terrifying tale. If you love stories that send a shiver down your spine, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. See you next time.